conducting, it is important that our gestures look like the music sounds. We can accomplish this in part by matching the size of our gesture with the dynamics that we are conducting. Generally, the louder the dynamic, the larger the gesture. The softer, the smaller the gesture. The larger gestures are controlled by the shoulder hinge and the elbow hinge. And the softer gestures are controlled by the wrist hinge and, in part, by the elbow hinge. This means that the gesture box will be constantly changing in size as the dynamics change in the work that you are conducting. There are really only two types of dynamic changes: sudden changes, such as terrace dynamics or subito dynamic changes, and gradual changes, the crescendi and diminuendi. In subito dynamic changes, the conductor must stay ahead of the ensemble dynamically. This usually means that the conductor uses the last beat of one dynamic phrase as a sort of prep beat or change beat to change the size of the gesture for the upcoming dynamic phrase. Dynamics can be conducted with one hand, both hands, or shown by body movement. For example, you can increase the volume and intensity of an ensemble sound simply by stepping towards the ensemble or leaning towards the ensemble. You can make the ensemble play softer and with less intensity by leaning backwards, away from them, or stepping away from them. In addition to simply increasing the size of the gesture as the dynamic gets louder, you can also mirror conduct, which, because you have two hands, makes the gesture look larger. In fact, the three primary and easiest ways to make a dynamic change that gets louder are bigger gestures, stepping towards the ensemble, and adding mirror conducting. And the opposite is true for softer. Step away from the ensemble, drop the left hand, and make the pattern or gesture smaller. The left hand palm can also be used to change dynamics. For example, if you show the ensemble your left hand palm, especially in the lower range of the gesture box, the ensemble will interpret this to mean softer in dynamic. Conversely, if you show them the back of your hand in the upper range of the gesture box, they will interpret this gesture to mean play louder. Notice that in both of these gestures, I am keeping my fingers together. The left hand can also effect a crescendo and diminuendo by simply moving through the gesture box smoothly and steady. Note here that my fingers are still together in this gesture and that my wrist is leading my fingers through the gesture. Also note that I am not having my palm flat and up or flat when it comes back down. This is a very easy gesture for you to do with just your left hand, but it's a gesture that will take quite a bit of practice to do smoothly while you are at the same time doing a beat pattern with your right hand. You can also affect dynamic change by moving along the horizontal plane. By expanding and contracting the focal point, the ensemble will get louder as the focal point gets larger and softer as you bring your hands back together. Each of these gestures looks like something that we do in our normal life in relationship to the terms expansion and contraction. The best conducting gestures are those that relate to the way that we communicate with one another in our everyday lives.